But it's better to talk about now of mental health versus talking about mental illness. So those are
Could
two
you say
different
that? Could you
things.
say that one part? That's what the young kids call a bar. Could you say that last part again?
Yes, so we are talking about mental health because it is so important to prevent mental illness. So mental illness, that's a very different conversation than talking about mental health.
This is Leo with Central State Sirs Driven to Service podcast. We are here with a special guest that will be speaking towards the mental wellness and health of not just our youth, but our community. I want to welcome Ricardo Tovar Vega for his presence and how we look to serve today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you.
And I just wanted to say, with all the great work that you do, mental health has been somewhat of a nuance. Just it was something that really wasn't talked about to now it's very popular. How would you actually define mental health?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And the very first thing that I will say to start defining mental health is to look at what we haven't been told about mental health and what we have heard negatively about mental health. So we have to, in the process of defining mental health now, it is important to look at a redefinition and considering that mental health it is a general state of well-being. It is a general state of physical health, intellectual health, cultural health. So mental health encompasses all of those different areas. It's not only about the mind and the spiritual health, but it's also about all of the different dimensions of human being that is impacted.
Amazing. And I know for me personally, one of the biggest things was, being raised Christian. It was like, go pray about it. Go talk to God about it. Be strong, stay strong. Kind of that suffering silence. How do we kind of break the stigma of that suffering silence, or build the proper community around mental health or our own mental health? How do we engage people into our mental wellness journey?
Yes, one of the things is, first of all, is to normalize the conversation, to bring that conversation into our households, bringing the conversation into our kitchen tables, bringing the conversation into our living rooms, and making it normal. Making something that we are in need of, and also understanding how we have been dealing with that mental health aspect taking a look at our environment to see how they have been enduring their understanding of mental health, and also including that mental health it's not a destination, but it's a journey, and that journey it's going to be touching upon various areas of our lives. For example, the youth they are going to be transitioning from youth to becoming adults. And so how does that mental health is going to assist them in that transitioning is very important.
And I love that you actually spoke to the youth, right? Because I think one of those things when I was growing up, just being faced with a lot of things like poverty, violence, gang affiliation, a lot of these things kind of took the course of me wanting to go the straight and narrow path. So my biggest thing would be, what do you feel are the most common things that are being challenged right now with the people that you serve at Project Vita?
Yes, so I have the pleasure of serving at Project Vita as a senior behavioral health psychotherapist. And Project Vita has been around since 1992, quite a few years. And Project Vita is very interested in bringing high quality services to the black and brown community that has been historically disenfranchised, has been historically forgotten, and historically underserved. So Project Vita is really pushing forward to bring those high quality services to the community.
Amazing, amazing. And services that we might not always identify that we need at the moment, right? Because like I said, staying strong for so long. I think one of my first introductions to therapy was grief counseling when I lost my father at a young age,
Oh,
right?
sorry to hear
So
that.
it was one of those things that where, like, respectfully, that was something reserved to white counterparts. It wasn't something that was actually accepted within a community. But I realized just through that grief counseling how impactful it truly was. So, I mean, largely dealing with how would you necessarily go about dealing with like normal stress versus being in distress? Like, how do we identify those things being actually stressed out or just being completely focused?
Yeah, so that's a very important question because we're going to then make a clear distinction of what an emotional fatigue would look like and what a clinical depression would look like. Those are two different things. An emotional fatigue, I may be fatigued because I have a lot of homework that is being piled up. I may be emotionally fatigued because I have a lot of people from my family or from my social work group that is coming to me to ask for help or to that they need something from me. So emotional fatigue will settle down like after 72 hours. You usually have like a nice rest, a nice conversation with a family member or a friend, and that emotional fatigue kind of like washes away, and we start feeling certain sense of relief. With a clinical depression, that's going to be more severe. The presentation of my overwhelming, my feelings of sadness, my feelings of loss of interest. I'm going to have a hard time getting out of bed. I'm going to have a hard time showing up for work. I'm going to have a hard time showing up for my friends. I'm all of a sudden going to hide from those circle moments, from those social recreational moments. I'm going to lose my interest, my motivation. And so that clinical depression is going to look a lot different than an emotional fatigue. Or I could even be fatigued in terms of my compassion to give myself,
Wow.
or be fatigued in providing compassion to others as well.
Wow.
So those are very important differentiations. It's always very important also to consult with a licensed clinical social worker, a professional, so that they can start sorting out all of the different symptoms and presentation.
Amazing. And largely, I think you spoke about something, compassion fatigue, right? Some things a lot of times we are there for others. We are showing our love, our care. What ways can we kind of protect that compassion fatigue, right? Because I think it's sometimes it just comes with us as a person. I'm a loving person, so sometimes it comes with me, but I'm not necessarily doing the steps to properly guard myself. What do you say would be some great, just small tidbits on just preventing some of that compassion fatigue?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are different, definitely a few strategies to tackle that self compassion and acknowledging that my cup is empty, acknowledging that I've done way more than I was expected, acknowledging that I also have human needs. And staying away from the cliche of, oh, I gotta be strong, I gotta be fuerte, like we say, you gotta be strong. So staying away from those statements is also very helpful, and acknowledging that we are human and that we also, there are gonna be moments when we have to fill our own cup, and be committed to it. Have that commitment to say, when I don't have it in me, I have to be honest with myself, and I have to recognize that for myself and also for others, so that I'm ready for when people need me and when I need myself, so that then I am ready to show up with a full cup.
Amazing. I actually love that answer. Love that answer. And when it comes to specific resources to Project Vita, what specific resources do you actually provide for the community?
Yeah, so at Project Vida, we have wraparound services for families that are facing house insecurity, food insecurity. We have a food pantry. We have a case manager that works in housing. We also have a case manager that works in workforce development. Say, for example, people need to be connected to different organizations for employment. And of course, we also have the behavioral health services. The behavioral health services are going to be providing individual therapy, group therapy, family therapy, and therapy for getting engaged in the workforce development. We also have the preventing team for testing, for providing health education, and we also have the wellness center. The wellness center is a really fun environment for people to come in, try nutrition classes, cooking classes, fitness classes. So it's a whole wrapped around services, body, mind, and soul. It's all integrated.
Which is very important, especially for community building. But I think it's also how do if in like I said, this probably be a bit nuanced question, but how do we create community healing? Like community healing as far as neighbor being able to trust a neighbor, understanding we're gonna speak up as a community. How can we build that? Because I know we speak about mental health on the individual level, but how do we also move that towards a community standpoint?
Yeah, so bringing healing is also a major task to start for us individually, thinking about where does healing come from? How does healing look like? And does healing come from an organization? Does healing come from a family? Does healing come from a church? Can I receive healing from the work that I do, right? So exploring the different venues of healing. A lot of times we just think that healing comes from one venue, from one direction, but thinking about healing that comes from a multi-direction. It's a very important. Mindfulness is a very important strategy. Mindfulness is assisting the mind to be exercised and to bring the mind to the present moment. Because what happens is that when we are experiencing stress, our mind starts wandering around. Yeah. So our job and our exercise is to bring the mind to the present moment and to be aware of that present moment. What is it that I'm doing at task? What is it that I have in front of me to perform? What task it is? So bringing my mind to the present moment is very important, and also without judgment. So a lot of times what we do when we are experiencing distress is to negatively judge ourselves. So the more that we do mindfulness, the more that we reduce those self judgments that we impose on us. And so that automatically we receive a relief when we are not judging ourselves that harsh.
Amazing, amazing. And like I said, I kind of wanted to just pivot a little bit, right?
Yes.
I think one of the things that you learn in growing up is you make connection with people and you build relationships, right? How do you necessarily build positive relationships? Because I think it's a lot of time we gain a lot of bad habits in our youth that kind of travels with us as we get older. But what would you say would be to establish healthy relationships? What does that actually look like?
Yeah, so that is a great question, and that requires that we need to sit down and engage in cognitive reflection. So reflecting, it's a very important process, and if we build the habit of reflecting during our day, say in the morning, afternoon, or at night, or in the morning and at night, to reflect about what have we done in the day, how did we do in the day, what's bothering us. So having that habit of reflection is very important, and talking to someone, also trying to open up our horizons and reach out to others, because maybe they have already experienced something similar. So it will be very enriching to see how they have progressed or how they have overcome some of the challenges. So definitely reflecting, sharing, and then getting back into action mode.
Amazing, amazing. And just for my final question, a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people do suffer in silence. Sometimes just putting it on the table is very hard for people to be very forward and transparent. What piece of advice could you give them about just being forward about the things that they're actually struggling with mentally? How do we actually get to that conversation or just bring it about?
Yeah, so one of the first things is to um, leave behind the negative judgment that we may have around that topic and just honestly and openly acknowledge that there's something that we don't know, that there is something that we just don't have the experience yet, and acknowledging that it's okay. And reaching out, that's very important so that we can continue to approach that growth in therapy and dialogue and look at it as a discussion, as a dialogue, as a conversation that is a normal conversation. It's nothing serious going on, but it's better to talk about now of mental health versus talking about mental illness. So those are
Could
two
you say
different
that? Could you
things.
say that one part? That's what the young kids call a bar. Could you say that last part again?
Yes, so we are talking about mental health because it is so important to prevent mental illness. So mental illness, that's a very different conversation than talking about mental health, right? Talking about mental health is preventive. It's a prevention, and it's not talking about, well, my brother, my sister, or my parents are already suffering from a mental illness. So it's a very different conversation.
I understand. Thank you. And one thing that I wanted to kind of pivot, like I said, we're a workforce development agency, so largely a lot of the stress that comes with being proficient at a job and or the tendencies to either be in a new field that we're not really great at, and like how would you necessarily say for an individual youth going to college, right? The stress of going to college, the stress of starting your first career. What would you insight could you give them just as far as protecting your mental health even in that journey?
Yeah, so one of the things that Leo, you make me think about is that how do I have my support system established around me? What does my support system look like? Who is involved in my support system? Who can I call when I need to use that support system? Are they available? How are they available? And are they reachable? And so getting a good sense of who is in the support system is very important. Also, diversifying your support system is very important, meaning not only have a support system at the family and or at work, but from everywhere, from the family, from work, from friends, from organizations, so to expand the support system as much as possible.
Amazing. I think a lot of gems were dropped here today. I really appreciate your time. Like I said, this is an
Absolutely.
amazing conversation. I would love to build off of.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, this is also a good moment to let you all know that Project Vida is standing as an organization available for the families to assist, to consult, to have fun, to initiate a conversation, and to really normalize these different conversations on mental health and to bring those services to the families.
So next we have a very passionate, dedicated youth that will necessarily speak with a licensed clinical social worker and kind of ask his ideas on mental health, mental wellness. Introducing Ricardo.
My name is Ricardo, and today I'm here with
Ricardo.
as well. So today we were talking about mental health, and we were getting to a little bit about what it is that causes it, what it is to help it, how can we prevent it, and probably a question of mine is probably, do you think it's more of a problem with mental health when it comes to kids, or more with an adult or adults in general? Like, as to where it comes, like, what's the bigger group when they struggle with it more? You think kids struggle with it more, or do you think adults struggle with it more? From like the type of situations you've dealt with, type of people you've worked with, like, do you think it's more in like a adolescent or juvenile phase in life, or do you think it's more later on when you're an adult and a lot of things take a toll on you as you get older?
Yeah. Oh, that is a very good question, and that's a very important question to start identifying where is the problem. Is it in the young population, or is it in the adult population, or the adult population transferred it to the young population? So where is it? So we know statistically that 1 in 4 Americans are going to, at some point in their lives, suffer from mental illness. Again, it's not mental health, it's mental illness. So
Mental.
1 in 4. So that's a pretty alarming number, pretty alarming statistics, because that means that the people that are around us, the people that we know, the people that we have encountered in our lives may face mental challenges, mental illness challenges. And so it is important to start educating the young kids at an early age to help them recognize when they feel sad, when they feel anguish, when they feel struggling, to help them to speak, because let us be honest, it's not easy to talk about our emotions. And we have been told historically that talking about our emotions is a sign of weakness, is a sign of failure, and it is not. So that is the narrative that we need to change, and to impulse that narrative to reshape our environment and say, no, let's talk about it, because our mental health affects our financial health. We have earlier heard Morgan talking about poverty and as being a part of the systemic oppression that is in the environment. Yeah, so thank you for the question.
Most definitely. Probably another thing I would want to add on to it. I think growing up, it was kind of like us as kids, or anybody when you grow up, like as a kid, it's like your mind and your heart is still in a state of purity. As to when you're an adult, you deal with more stuff. You deal with problems, financial issues, family issues, and mental health issues, stuff in your personal life. So that's why I was asking that question, because it was kind of like, how do you get it as a kid when as a kid you're not necessarily born with it, but it's something you could develop over years, over time, and not just by yourself, because it's like you're not just around kids when you're a kid. It's like you're more around your family, you're more around adults, you're more around uncles, moms, aunts. And that's a big question I wanted to ask, because I dealt with it same way, growing up, but it was kind of like I wasn't born like this, or it wasn't like, oh, I had a problem since I was little. Nah, it was more about we're all a product of our environment. So it's like anything you grow up around, or anything you deal with growing up, that's kind of like something that's going to be a part of you when you get older. And it's either you let it affect you in a good way and you do better, and you break cycles, break generational curses, or it something that just takes a toll on you. You let it get the best of you, and eventually, little by little, like you start losing yourself. You start losing like probably just your, how would I say it? Like the best version of yourself. And it's more like I wanted to really get on that question because of that, because I was thinking about it. Like, is it something that you are born with, something you develop, or is it like something that happens because eventually people older than you could deal with it, people older than you can have it? And it's like you as a kid, you're not fully aware, fully understanding as to when it comes to an adult life, or an adult's type of choices when it comes to life. So that's what I wanted to pick up on too, because it was like my family wasn't the best growing up, but it's not like, oh, it's just my family. Nah, it's everybody's family. Everybody's family got kids, everybody's family got adults. And yeah, that's why I wanted to pick up on that question. And
Excellent. Yeah.
yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
well,
add to it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, Ricardo. Let me add. There's something, a very important point that you bring up. what makes us to not continue the conversation in the families, especially when we are seeing clearly that our adults in the family are having a hard time with mental health. And that comes from the stigma that is being carried on for generations. And so to break that silence is to break the stigma, to break a generational curse or a generational negative experience, to be able to reshape our environments.
Most definitely. Yeah, I think that's probably just like one of the big questions I had. Other than that, I probably would like to ask maybe something with you. Is there anything that made you want to do what you do now? Or like what kind of pushed you to become the person you are right now? What kind of pushed you to work with what you work with, the people you work with? Because it's like we all have a dream when we're kids and we all have goals, we have things we want to accomplish. And it's like you could ask a kid when he's little, like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? He'd be like, oh, I want to be a professional basketball player, or I want to be a boxer, I want to be a professional soccer player. And it's like, what point in time did you tell yourself or realize, like, oh, this is what I want to do? I want to work with people who have problems mentally. I want to work with people who have trouble, dealing with things or dealing with problems on their own, whether it's kids, whether it's adults. That's something I would want to ask you. Like, where in time did you tell yourself, like, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do? Yeah. Or is there something that made you switch from what you wanted to do when you were little, from when you were a kid to like now to what you do now? Or is like, oh, you always wanted to do this since you were a kid?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I am a licensed clinical social worker, and this is my second career
Sure.
in life. So my very first career right off college, it was working for the airlines. How I was a flight attendant, so I was traveling all over.
Nice.
And then in 2016, I left the airline after putting about 22 years of service, and then started another career as a mental health provider, psychotherapist. So I went to school. I went through the whole training, and one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to do this when I was very, very young.
For sure.
So I did realize that I couldn't because, of course, being a social worker is not the most glamorous paid life. So it's very hard to feed a family
Most definitely.
on the salary, right, of social work. So I was then had to work as, in this other organizations, and then put my dream job on the side for a few years, so then that I can dedicate myself to it.
I'm happy, just experiencing these little few minutes asking you these questions because at the end of the day, we're all here for each other. We're here to help each other.
Yes.
And yeah, like I said, thank you for everything you do. Appreciate you, Ricardo.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for bringing out all these important questions. I can tell you that 50 years ago, I was experiencing the same thing
For
with
sure.
your family 50 years ago. I was about 7 years old. Don't do the math. But I was experiencing the same thing, and my family will be saying, "Oh no, therapy that's only for rich people. Therapy, oh no, that's only for someone who has gone through a very traumatic situation."
For sure.
So it was not for the day-to-day uh, living experience. And then I'm thinking, well, therapy, if it's not a therapist, well, how about having a mentor? How
Mentor.
about having a coach? It could be a similar thing. Yeah, so thank you.
Most definitely.
Hello, Ricardo. I don't know, you just got done speaking of him about things. I just had a few questions for you myself. I'm Orlando, if you didn't know. I really want to start off with I really I see a concern. Well, I have a personal concern. These days I feel like back then it would be more adult focused mental health, because there was a lot more going on with the adults, but now it's just we're in a generation where like all the eyes are on the young people. It's like I would say, me personally, I go through things, and I would say I do a lot of these things that I'm personally about to speak about, but it's like I see a lot of the same things, like the same patterns. A lot of a lot of youth, they like to do things and, take things, like I say, not just drugs, but, people, they harm themselves just because they can't keep up with the mental state that they're in. And I would like to ask, like, why do you believe these people or the youth, they do things to, I want to say, like, feel nothing, but, to just put them in a state where it's like, all right, this is not bothering me.
Okay. Yes, so let me ask you something, Orlando. When you say this is not bothering me, can you say a little bit more about that?
Um, when I say not bothering me, well, it just basically means not feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was to come to me
Okay.
right now with some mess, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't really care. If I was to get mad at my parents or I'm getting mad at a person, like, I wouldn't be mad. It's
Mm-hmm.
not bothering you.
Okay. Yeah, so being bothered, it's something that you want to make sure that you strategize. Is it not bothering me, or is it bothering me, but I don't know how is it bothering me?
hmm I honestly, I would say more so the bothering part on, like, the negative things, things that would make you feel down or sad. I feel like a lot of the times we have a misconception with depression, with the
Mm-hmm.
way we think, because I would say a phrase I would put it right now that the youth are going, like a lot of the youth are like by depressed. It's a lot of youth out here that wakes up every day to feel like they not enough, feel like they can't do this or they can't do that, or if I don't do this, it's not going to get me here where I need to be. And
Yeah.
and with that, with knowing that, sometimes it's like, you could talk to a lot of people, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they just feel like they won't get it. So
Yeah.
being a mental health therapist, like, how do you, like, break those walls with people who feel like, if I talk to you, what is it going to do? How do you break those walls?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So breaking the barriers and helping someone to break the barriers, it's going to be a very important thing, right? So as a licensed clinical psychotherapist, I won't be breaking the barrier for you. I will not be, uh, you know, doing the work for you, right? I won't be doing it. So what I would be doing is I will be engaging you in different conversations, in different interventions, in different activities, so that you can look internally and look at your inner world that's going on in you, so that you can start discovering your answer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that you can start actually taking the steps that you need to take based upon your decision, based upon your reflection. A therapist not necessarily is coming to give you the advice or to do the work for you, but a therapist is mostly coming to tap into your internal world, and so that you can explore that inner world and then find the answer.
For yourself. Yes, sir. And then another question I had was, like, dealing with mental health with the youth, even adults. You got different types of
Mhm.
situations. You got situations where this person is just feeling down. Maybe this person just talks a lot. Nobody listens. He just needs somebody to talk to on a daily. I believe with that, the work that you guys do, like, it's amazing. Like, even if you feel as if you're not making a change, I feel like you are making a change, because with some certain people, they don't have that extra person to talk to. If they talk to this person, just feel like they're not listening or just telling them what they want to hear. And with that, how do you tell people what they need to hear? Like, how do you go, like, off of what they tell you and you know what to say? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, so that is a very important process in the therapeutic relationship, because as a psychotherapist, I want the person to grow and I want the person to flourish and I want the person to realize their full potential. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be bringing the person into a very reflective, introspective conversation. For example, having them learn different skills to keep themselves safe, having them to learn skills to engage in interpersonal effectiveness with others, with home, with work, with friends. And also, I'm going to be giving them the skills that they're going to need to emotionally regulate. Because a lot of times emotional regulation is not taking into consideration, and we receive the feelings of overwhelm and anxiety and all of the feelings you can imagine, but we don't have strategies to managing those feelings. So bringing them those skills so that they can become their own managers of their emotions, their own project managers of their emotions. So overwhelming can be feeling like a gargantuan task, like something so difficult, but breaking down that project into small pieces, the project of the emotional work, right? To break it down into small pieces so that it's more manageable. And the ultimate goal of me as a psychotherapist is to bring you all of the skills that at one day you are going to continue performing even when the therapist is not there. So you become your own coach, you become your own assistant, your own guidance, and that's a very important thing so that you can feel empowered, independent, and self-sufficient.
And with the managing your emotions part, I've been thinking a lot myself lately on like what's the definition of being emotionally intelligent. You know, I feel like you could say you're emotionally intelligent, but on the part if you can't manage your emotions, or I wouldn't say just put them to the side. I feel like you should keep your emotions in a lot of things because the way you feel is important. But like it's just the way you handle them. Are you going to show them? Are you going to let this person know that you're feeling down? Are you going to show this person, or are you going to do things based off of your emotions? And I feel like more of on the man side, they try to downplay you being a man if you show more of your emotions. So with dealing with youth growing men, like how do y'all like teach them how to not handle the emotions, but just like let them out. Like it's okay to get them out. Like it's okay to tell them something wrong. It's okay if something's wrong. Like how do you get them to show you that or get better with those?
Yeah, so it's very important to bring into the conversation the different presentations. For example, is it anger that is obstructing my articulation of how I feel?
Mm-hmm.
Is it irritability that is not letting me express what I feel? Or is it a lack of vocabulary? I simply sometimes don't have the words or the vocabulary to articulate what I feel. So it's very important to name it, to tame it, right? It's very important to name the feeling, to name the emotion, and to also sit with the discomfort, because sometimes when we name the emotion of what we feel, it's going to feel a little bit of discomfort. But when we sit down with that discomfort and just let it ride for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we start creating a muscle in our mind that scientifically has a name. It's called habituation, but that's our own internal body is sort of like adjusting to the situation that we are experiencing. Yeah, so it's very important to pay attention to our biology, also to our own chemistry composition, because everybody is different. Everyone has a different set of chemistry, a different set of biology. So that's going to really also make an impact, right? How do we eat? What do we eat? When do we eat? All of that has an impact on the things on how we feel. And also, have we slept? Have we rested? Have we gained a proper rest? When we sleep, that's also very important, because anger, irritability, and some other symptoms can also be dependent upon the fact that we haven't had a good night's sleep, or dependent upon that we haven't had a good meal, in several days. So yes, you can tell, how am I going to feel? It's going to be probably in crisis. So as a crisis counselor, I'm always going to be talking to the people, asking them, when was the last time you ate? And how was your rest when you went to sleep?
Okay. And with that, I'm pretty finished. I just got one more question. What would some advice be to a lot of the people, youth or adult? It really doesn't matter. Anybody. What would your advice be to them to deal with emotions, life, stability, and just really just being able to keep on going, to have the motivation to keep going?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is a question about motivation. How do we understand our motivation? So, one of the things that is very important to understand with motivation is that motivation is not an object. Motivation is an internal experience. It's something that occurs, that starts inside of us. And yes, there may be an external motivation or an external source that makes us motivated, but at the end of the day, it's an internal experience, what we feel inside, because we are thinking, oh, I'm going to go to exercise. What kind of exercise am I going to do? How am I going to invest myself in that exercise? How long is it going to take me to get to the exercise place? So all of those things, all of that dialogue is internal, right? And I'm going to be creating that experience. For example, I'm going to go and study. I'm going to go and get that project done. Well, everything is internal. What am I going to gain? So the answer is to understand the motivation as an internal experience, not as an object, because an object is my glasses, my wallet, my cell phone. Those things, I can lose them, I can misplace them, and I can forget where I placed them at, right? Motivation is not like that. Motivation is an internal experience that it's going to be there regardless of the circumstances. So, and when we come to see that a lot of times when we experience adversity, we can still tap into our internal world and find that motivation to keep us going.
All right, thank you for speaking with me. With that, I'm just
Thank
going to
you.
wrap this up. I don't want to make it too long. He really touched on a lot of the things that I want to touch on. This is more personal questions, but I hope they help. And you have a good day.
Thank you so much, Orlando. Appreciate your questions.